Mr. Chairman, you have that difficult position in the House of you could write a bill in the House, a budget resolution in the House that could easily pass the House. But you know that you have to have something identical to what the Senate passes. And you just heard Joe Manchin say what he believes at this stage he's not willing to do. He's not willing to go above maybe $2 trillion, maybe $3 trillion. The president wants to go much higher than that. What do you say to Senator Manchin?
Well, I say to him that, by the way, Senator Manchin, there are 221 of us who are in the same position in the House and another 49 in the Senate who are just like you. Every one of us basically has the leverage to kill or succeed in passing a resolution. And so the attention that's paid to him, I understand, but every one of us is in the same position. And that makes, it's ordinary. On an everyday basis, getting Democrats together is hurting cats. And this is hurting all the cats and making sure that everyone knows that we don't have right now, each of us does not have the normal independence that we would have. We have to basically say there is an ultimate goal. We all support the goal. We have to figure out how to get there. And that's, Nancy Pelosi always says unity is our strength. And I say, in this case, unity is our only chance.
Let's try to take us through the timetable here for the audience so they know what to expect. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It seems to me what I'm hearing from the speaker is that she expects, understandably, the Senate to pass their bipartisan agreement on infrastructure first. That bill, when it passes the Senate, immediately gets sent to the House. Speaker Pelosi takes that bill, says thank you, puts it over here, and then waits for the other action to be done on what will probably be the Democrats-only reconciliation version of the bill. And it sounds like Chuck Schumer's saying that he expects your budget resolutions to be ready to be passed before the August recess, so by the end of July. Does that sound right to you?
Right. That's what we're trying to accomplish, because then the legislation that actually implements, as you described so well in your intro, the legislation that actually accomplishes what we're trying to do through reconciliation would be drafted by the various committees of jurisdiction during the August recess, and then we could take them up in the fall.
Yeah, so then you would come back in, say, September, early October, and you'd have that so-called reconciliation bill, which would be the final piece of it, that eventually gets passed at that point through the Senate and the House. And you could theoretically pass at that point, if the Speaker is holding the bipartisan Senate bill, theoretically you could pass them roughly on the same day.
We could, but that doesn't matter. I mean, obviously the Speaker is strategizing that, because a lot of people say, well, there's a risk that we would pass a bipartisan bill and then lose some votes on what ends up being probably a more expensive, what we call the care economy provisions: child care, job training, senior care, early childhood education, and some of the climate change legislation that is so important to many of our members. So that's the linkage. That's the reason for the linkage. But it's not going to be easy. I've met with the Progressive Caucus today. I met with the Blue Dogs today. And remember, what we're trying to do in the reconciliation process is so that we don't, it can't be filibustered in the Senate. We don't require 60 votes. And so every one of the 50 votes in the Senate is necessary, and we can only lose 4 right now. It will be 3, soon be 3 in the House. So essentially, every vote is critical. That's it's quite a test that we're facing.
I want to talk to you about one very important infrastructure project, which is the Brent Spence Bridge, which, of course, as you know, the audience doesn't know, connects your state of Kentucky across the Ohio River with Ohio. Hugely important bridge. And it's an important bridge to Senator McConnell, who is working as hard as he can to kill both versions of this infrastructure bill. Are we really going to be, is Kentucky really going to be watching Mitch McConnell take credit for improvements in a bridge after he fought against the legislation that got it done?
Well, I hope we get it done, but no doubt that Mitch, whom I've known for many years, will take credit whenever he can. But one of the things that's fascinating in the American Jobs Plan, the president's proposal, there is a $25 billion set aside that is designed for the 10 most critical regional infrastructure projects. One of those, I think it usually ranks about second on the list, is the Brent Spence Bridge. So this is a real opportunity for Kentuckians, and not just Kentuckians and Ohioans, but basically people all through the Midwest to do something that is absolutely essential, because the Brent Spence Bridge is probably not very far along than the I-40 bridge that we saw in Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, it is definitely in need of replacement. It's probably about a $2 billion project. We could fund it out of this set-aside fund in the American Jobs Plan, which Senator McConnell will adamantly oppose.